Oh, I'm sorry.
We need a lot taller bus. or shorter people. Okay.
No, we cannot stop this. But yeah, we don't want to take somebody and then change. Normally just take it on.
Go ahead.
Yeah, but I want to take the Metropolitan down to Finchley. It's on, yeah, because it's on the same platform, so.
So Heather, what's going on here? This is our first tube ride. This is going to be your first tube ride, eh girls?
Yep.
Okay, mind the gap.
Guys, what we're going to do is stop.
Love your neighbor as yourself. Read the parable of the Samaritan stories.
You want to see those Ferrari pictures? They're really nice.
I'm not a car guy, Paul.
I know, but they're still pretty nice.
Okay. Show me the Ferrari pictures, Paul. Where's my air?
Well, the guys you're taking photo left is one of the Queen Lives guards. This is called Old Star Parade, and it used to be one of the gates to get into St. James's Palace, where the other residents of the Queen was before Buckingham Palace, where the King and the Queens. And if you see Diana's funeral, you might remember coming out from here. There was we're going to be seeing
Palace.
That's Buckingham Palace. In there, the
Yeah,
residence of the Queen.
right at the end of that street.
Right at the end of the street.
It's called the Pall Mall.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
We're not going to be able to do it with the bus, but we're going to be walking next to it. Sorry. Shall we go to the Falcon?
Oh,
Whoa, look at that. Oh my
yeah.
And up here, you still got people living, even up here. Usually like that, kind of down here. Wow.
stepways.
Wow.
What a fight. Look at that room. Look at the bricks.
Brian's eyes.
Well, I'm just sort of taking little pieces here and there. Yeah. So how was your day today, girls?
Exciting.
Now tell me, you're not tired at all, are you? You ready for the disco tonight, right? So, what's on the agenda for the rest of the day?
Swimming and then showers. How kind of gross was the place? Yeah, it's humid.
Yes.
The place is humid in Toronto.
Okay, sorry.
Stain on my shirt.
Ice cream. So tell us what we had for supper tonight.
Fish and chips. London stuff. And honey ketchup.
Balsamic vinegar.
Tartar sauce.
Tartar sauce.
Water. And then some creamy ice cream. Yeah, ice cream. I like ice cream. One in the place? How was your day, Mrs. Flower?
It was long.
Yeah, it was.
34 hours long. All of you, yeah. When you get to bed, you'll be awake for 34 hours.
Oh my god. What? 34 hours? I slept for 1 hour on the plane. My heart is beating.
Some of us didn't last that long.
It was very uncomfortable.
Yes, it was. Okay, say goodnight, girls.
Good night.
Where are we right now? Where are we, Glenn?
Downtown. I don't know, but we're on our way back to Wembley Stadium.
Yep, and this is the train we're going to take from Marylebone Station.
It'll be
And push it twice as popcorn.
Good morning. It's the morning of the 30th. And we're loading our tour bus. It's about 9 o'clock. And we're going to be on our way soon. It's a lovely, lovely day. The temperature should be about 16 degrees.
Sorry, man.
There. Now you can see the commentator.
Here, hold it.
Oh yeah, I want to shoot this. At any rate, as you can see, we're all smiles. Everybody's chipper and ready. Here's our hat. Good morning.
Right, good morning everyone. How are you this morning? Okay, kind of a bit of energy. Well, I'm sorry to tell you that there's not changing of the guard today, unfortunately. It was yesterday and it's going to be tomorrow. But still, you're going to have a lovely tour of the city. And Ronnie is going to take us around. Say hi to my group. Hey.
Hey, Ron.
And I'm Italian, I can't help it. And Joe over here is gonna tell you all the mysteries and secrets of London. So say hi to Joe and I'll pass the microphone to her.
Hey, Joe. What do you know?
We're just being told that homes in this area are worth about £1 million.
It's just an apartment.
At the moment we're in Notting Hill, or Notting Hill Gate as we used to call it.
Notting Hill.
Shortened now to Notting Hill. And the Portobello Road Market is just off to the left, down that road to the left. Famous Gate Cinema to the right there. Down to the left and left again is Portobello Road.
Some of the homes $5 million basically. $5 million.
And you can buy a mansion in Canada for what? In Winnipeg for what?
They
Not even
don't-
a mil?
Yeah. The homes around here don't even have
So at the moment we're in the Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea. And that's because Kensington Palace is in this area. And that's where Princess Diana lived.
These are extremely expensive houses on either side of these streets. Extremely expensive. Check those.
And very small rooms.
I don't know what you call these houses. Look at that. Not an inch a yard.
Nice lighting shop coming up on the right with more chandeliers there.
Chandelier shop.
And then as we turn here, if you look to your left, you'll see another one. Coming down into the heart of Kensington now. Coming up on our right, you'll see a church called St Mary Abbots, Kensington. And this is where Beatrix Potter, who wrote the stories about Peter Rabbit and all the animals, she was married in that church just to the right, middle age. She married to a solicitor after she'd written all the books, and then she moved up to the north of England to the Lake District, and she bought a farm, and then she gradually acquired more and more land. And when she died, she gave it all to the National Trust. Diana used to drive in and out, up to the left there now. And then as we come into Kensington Gardens here to the left, you keep looking up to the left, you're going to see Kensington Palace. Well, that's not quite true. You're going to see it covered in scaffolding and plastic sheeting. And that gives you an idea of the rest of London. Everything seems to be covered in scaffolding at the moment. But you'll see the gates, the beautiful gates are leading up there. And if you remember back to when Princess Diana died, they laid flowers at the gate there and they came all the way down that long avenue. So this is Kensington Gardens to the left here, which is just one of the 5 royal parks here in central London, all owned by the Queen, but open to the public. All the beautiful daffodils out and and he had this bright idea to hold a trade exhibition in 1851.
Oh, look at that.
Building for it was made of glass and iron and was built over the trees here in the garden. The exhibition was an enormous success, and Prince Albert decided that the profits from it would go towards buying the land down in South Kensington on which our museums are now built. Mews, as we call it. This is where in the old days the horses were barracked and where the deliveries were made. Yes, now of course they cost the earth for a tiny little apartment at the back. Just over to your left here is part of London University. This is Imperial College of Science, Technology and Medicine. London University is not built on a campus as many of our universities are. Various departments are situated all over London. Now, somebody's just been asking me about services in Westminster Abbey and St Paul's. Yeah, they have this afternoon, there should be an evensong, let's see, Sunday. 3 o'clock is evensong. 5:45 in the evening there's an organ recital. And at 6:30 they have the evening service.
What would it cost to live in one of these places on the right?
On the right here, these are divided into apartments. Nobody owns the whole house, they can't afford to. So about £2 million to live in this area. Just to the right here is Baden-Powell House, which is the world headquarters of the Boy Scouts and Girl Guides Association. Now we're just coming into the area of South Kensington, which is where most of our museums are situated. And all of this land was bought with the profits that came from the Great Exhibition of 1851, which was Prince Albert's idea.
Oh, look.
Whoa.
Yes, St Paul's Cathedral on a Sunday, 3:15 choral evensong, and 6 o'clock is an evening service. Now, over to the left here, a building that looks like a church or a cathedral is in fact our Natural History Museum. Whereas on a church you'd have saints and bishops. Here we've got animals sculpted all over the building. If you look to the top of the drain pipes and in between the triangular pediments there are animals. And this is a very popular museum with the children. They have an excellent dinosaur exhibition. Wonderful growling dinosaurs. And then down here to the left is an open-air photography exhibition, which is environmental photography, all taken from the sky, and that's free. But then it's free to go into the Natural History Museum now as well, except for special exhibitions. Up to the left is the Science and Geological Museum, and over to the left here on the next corner is the Victoria and Albert Museum, known to Londoners as the V&A. Mohammed Al Fayed, who was the father of Dodi Fayed, who was in the fatal car crash with Princess Diana in Paris.
Harrods department
So eyes right for Harrods. Harrods, of course, can be terribly expensive. So what I often suggest to people is you have a good look around Harrods, buy your carrier bags in there, and then go and do your shopping up in Oxford Street in Selfridge's department store, where you'll get all the same goods, but cheaper. Mohammed failed miserably, and then he fell out with the royal family because he accused Prince Philip of having something to do with Diana's car crash, and he's now apparently so fed up with our tax system that he's decided to move to Switzerland. So that was the only good news yesterday on the TV, which is very good for buying expensive raincoats. That's what it used to be famous for. It does every type of clothing possible now. And the nearest underground station to Harrods is Knightsbridge, which is alighting on the Chariot of War on the top. And that was built to commemorate the Duke of Wellington's victory at the Battle of Waterloo in 1815. And that was the battle that ended the Napoleonic Wars, the wars between France and England. Well, at least for a while. We're always arguing about something with France, particularly at the moment. But we're also going to pass the Duke of Wellington's home. Coming up on our left, you'll see a square, sandy-coloured building with pillars. And this is Apsley House, which has a very prestigious address. Its address is number 1 London, because it was the very first house that you saw as you came in from the countryside, from the west behind us, in the 18th century when it was built. So to the left, number 1 London. And it's now a museum of the Duke of Wellington's memorabilia. But the present Duke of Wellington, the 9th Duke of Wellington, in fact has a small apartment at the top of the building. Queen Mother's gates with the lion and the unicorn in the centre, built to celebrate the Queen Mother's long life. She was 101 when she died. And to the left here now is Hyde Park. Over to the right you'll see a skyscraper hotel, the London Hilton. If you were to go right to the very top, to the bar at the top there, you get a beautiful view down over the Queen's back garden. She's got 40 acres of garden at the back of Buckingham Palace. Over to the right, the Cream building is the Dorchester Hotel, owned by the Sultan of Brunei, who used to be the richest man in the world, until he was overtaken by Bill Gates. Not quite so romantic, is it? I think Bill Gates, Microsoft, as the richest man. So this is Park Lane that we're driving up at the moment. The widest carriageway in central London. Once upon a time, of course, it was just a muddy lane. Over to the right, the Grosvenor House Hotel, which stands on the site of the Grosvenor family's grand mansion. Just ahead of us at the top of Hyde Park was a large paved area, and that's known as Speaker's Corner, where on a Sunday, today, only on a Sunday, anybody can get up and talk about any subject they like. So if you look over to the left, you'll see Speaker's Corner. So, there's 175 Starbucks in central London in the West End.
This one building is about 2 good long blocks long.
Over to the right, Tower Records, one of the largest record shops in London. We're coming down to Piccadilly Circus now, and over to your right you'll see the little statue of Eros, balancing on one leg, shooting his arrow off into the distance. He's done very well standing on one leg for over 100 years, because most of the people who hang around the base of the statue in the evening, straight on. Yeah. Most of the people who hang around the statue in the evening have difficulty standing on 2 legs, let alone one. So this is very much the entertainment area here around Piccadilly Circus. Off to the left was Shaftesbury Avenue, where lots of the West End theatres are situated, the area of Soho, where all the nightlife goes on, and Chinatown. Over to the left here we have a covered shopping arcade called Chocadero, followed by Planet Hollywood, famous restaurant, just coming up on the left. Next door to Planet Hollywood to the left here is the Hard Rock Casino, not to be confused with the Hard Rock Cafe, which is in a completely different place on Hyde Park Corner.
Trocadero.
And a made no money. Directly ahead of us is Leicester Square, which is where many of the West End cinemas are situated, and to the left the Swiss Centre. And the badges on the pole directly ahead of us, Institute of Directors, followed on the left again by the Athenaeum Club with the Parthenon frieze around the top that comes from the Parthenon in Athens. Acropolis there. And then there are the Travellers and Reform Clubs along on the left, all bastions of the gentlemen, so that even when the ladies are invited in for dinner they have to go in through the side door. Down to the left, we've got the Grand Old Duke of York up on the top of the pillar there. He was one of George III's sons. He was head of the army. When he died, they got a penny from every soldier to put up the monument to him, and they say that he's so high up on that pillar to keep him away from his debtors, because he was a real gambler. So this street, Pall Mall, gets its name from a French game, a bit like croquet, called Pell Mell, which King Charles II used to play along here, leading up to his palace of St James's. Just to the left, Thomas Gainsborough had his artist studio, and Nell Gwynn, one of Charles II's mistresses, lived at the house on the left there. But coming up on our left, set back off the road, you're going to see St James's Palace, which was originally built by Henry VIII in the 16th century, and it was the official royal residence right up until Queen Victoria moved into Buckingham Palace. If you look to the left, you'll see the guard in his red uniform and his bear skin. That's in fact the first day this year that they've not had their grey coats on. It must have been winter up until today, because recently they've been wearing their heavy grey coats over their red uniform. So it must officially be spring today. Now, because there was only one guard on duty there, I know now that the Queen is not at home at Buckingham Palace. Usually at the weekend when she's based in London, she goes off to Windsor Castle, which is just 21 miles from central London, 5 miles on from Heathrow Airport. Now, St James's Palace is where Prince Charles lives when he's in London. Although since the Queen Mother died, her house was next door to St James's Palace. Prince Charles apparently, once it's been refurbished and modernised, is going to move into Clarence House. Now, remember the film Notting Hill? If you look down to the left here, you'll see the entrance to the Ritz Hotel, where they all leapt out the car and went rushing in. Just there on the left is the Ritz Hotel, made famous in Edwardian times by King Edward VIII. But it's also where Charlie Chaplin worked when he was a young lad. He worked there as a bellboy, but apparently got the sack for swinging on the doors. Just to the left here is Green Park. Oh, spring must be here, the deck chairs are out. And to the left here we have an open air market on a weekend, where they sell handmade goods, paintings, jewellery, leather goods, and the inevitable t-shirts. So that'll go on all day today. There we are, the sweatshirts, the t-shirts. They're very handmade, don't they? Now, coming up ahead of us on the right, behind the scaffolding of course, is the Hard Rock Cafe, the very first Hard Rock Cafe ever to be opened. Now they're all over the world, in every capital city. But if you want a sweatshirt, you don't have to go into the restaurant, you can just go to the shop on the right hand side here. The cafe itself is just to the right behind that white van. No reservations, you just have to queue up at the Hard Rock. So back to Hyde Park Corner again now. You see the Wellington Arch again to the right, or the Victory Arch as it's sometimes known.
Is that thing again?
The Wellington Arch is actually open to the public. You can climb up to the top and you get a wonderful view of the Queen's Garden, which is just coming up on our left. You'll see a brick wall with barbed wire and spikes on it. And this is the wall that surrounds the gardens of Buckingham Palace. There are 40 acres of garden behind the wall. They have a helicopter landing pad for the Red Royal helicopter. They have tennis courts, a large lake in the centre, vegetable garden in the corner. Plenty of space to walk in the Queen's favourite dogs, corgis. She's got 9 of them altogether, all females. Corgis aren't very common in America, are they? They look at me as if they don't know what a corgi is. Anyway, I can describe it as it looks like an Alsatian, a German Shepherd without any legs. And funny teeth, Alice said.
Buckingham Palace. Side of it. We've been touring
Now we will
around.
make a stop on the other side of the road shortly. And I'll get you off and we'll walk across to the front of Buckingham Palace to take photographs. If you look up to the top of Buckingham Palace, you see there's a flagpole over the centre. And if the British flag is flying as it is, that tells us the Queen's not at home. But if the Royal Standard is flying, then you know the Queen is in residence. To the left here, the Victoria Memorial with the Angel of Peace on the top. Queen Victoria looking down the Royal Red Road, the Mall. To the left here is St James's Park, another of the 5 royal parks. As we turn here to the left, this is the Wellington Barracks. The Queen has 5 regiments of foot guards, the oldest being the Coldstream and the Grenadiers, and the Irish, Scots and Welsh. The changing of the guard ceremony is quite simply the changing of one regiment for another, and it happens every 2 days at this time of the year, every day at the height of the summer. And they are all ordinary soldiers, so one day they could be guarding Buckingham Palace, the Tower of London, St James's Palace or Windsor Castle, and the next day they could be off to Iraq. So they're not just there for show, they are real proper soldiers.
Делать.
Давай это на фоне этого таких лошадей сфотографируем.
Well, this is Buckingham Palace, the courtyard or turnabout in the palace front. If you look through the gates here, you can see the guard in there. Somewhere in there.
Gotta get a picture of the guards.
There he is. This is our tour guide here. There's Jessie, Mr. LeBar's daughter, Mr. Polly, Mr. LeBar.
Hello, hello. Picture, taking a picture.
Yeah. There's Pat again. Kitties and kittles. Another one of our boys. His little sister, I believe. And this is called what this
Victoria Memorial.
Oh, okay.
Right? Victoria Memorial. That's it.
Victoria Memorial.
Something like that.
Get an accounting of our crew as we load the bus leaving Buckingham Palace. least we'll get a look at everyone. We're also traveling with a smaller group from Chicago. There is Elisa, our personal guide. And this lady is caring for us this morning on this particular bus.
37.
A really easy patient.
Queen's Gallery, Buckingham Palace.
After they'd done their change down at Horse Guards Parade, they were making their way back. A mathematician and an astronomer was brought to London to rebuild the burnt-out St. Paul's Cathedral. And that young man was Christopher Wren, later to become Sir Christopher Wren, probably our greatest architect. And it took him just 35 years to build the English Baroque masterpiece of St. Paul's Cathedral that now lies ahead of us on the top of Ludgate Hill. So we're now taking the processional route that Prince Charles and Princess Di took back in 1981 for their wedding, which was held in St. Paul's Cathedral. Bit of a surprise really, because the Royal Church is considered to be Westminster Abbey, but they're a modern young couple, they wanted somewhere different. And it's much more spacious inside St. Paul's, easier for filming because of course it was shown throughout the world, the fairy tale wedding. Now St. Paul's Cathedral has the second highest dome in the world after St. Peter's in Rome. It's 365 foot high to the gold ball of cross on the top. And it's where all our great heroes are buried. Admiral Horatio Lord Nelson has pride of place. He's buried directly below the dome in the crypt. Not far away from the Duke of Wellington, who ended the Napoleonic Wars in 1815 with the Battle of Waterloo. Some of our great artists are buried in St. Paul's Cathedral, including Millet and Holman Hunt, two of the pre-Raphaelite artists, and also J.M.W. Turner and Sir Joshua Reynolds. Now the statue that you're going to see in the front of the cathedral, to your left as we pass the front of it, is of Queen Anne, who was on the throne at the time that the church was completed in 1710. She's often known as Poor Queen Anne, because she had 17 children, none of which survived infancy. She became known as Brandy Nan after that. She took to drinking brandy and gin. Can't say I blame her. Now in a moment we're going to park up so we can get off the coast.
St. Paul's Cathedral. This is on the back side of the cathedral, opposite of where we just were. A monument I missed the name of. What's the name of this monument? Church across the street. Okay, we're walking around the side of the cathedral. We're going down into the crypt. all these scaffolding and sheeting you see on all these buildings, I guess it's their year end for the government, so they are spending money on cleaning and renovating the whole outside of this cathedral. Inside, they're fixing this whole city up.
She talked very highly of a toilet. I don't care how pretty it looks, I really have to take a picture. It's not going to be pretty after I use it.
Get that thing so we can take a picture of it. It's just what.
I am zoomed out.
And beyond that, the Duke of Wellington.
Well, I expect this is where they're all entombed. You have Wilson Carlisle, Sir William Alexander Smith, Duff Cooper, Leslie Kenneth Baron O'Brien of Lothbury, etc., etc. This is now the front of St. Paul's Cathedral. The monument here.
It's the only bridge crossing the River Thames that opens in the middle to allow tall ships to come through into the Pool of London, the area between these two bridges. The large grey battle cruiser that you see to the left is the HMS Belfast, which figured quite strongly during the Normandy landings in World War II and helped sink the German battleship Scharnhorst. And if you look over to the left, you'll see a square tower with a pyramid on the top, Now, and that's the tallest tower in Europe. It's called Canary Wharf Tower, and it's 800 feet high and 50 floors. Now, it's part of the Docklands development. There are 8.5 square miles of the old London docks spreading down the river on either side as far as Greenwich. Now, as we come over London Bridge, over the River Thames, we've come south of the river to an area called Southwark. You'll see a little silver dragon on the left here indicating one of the main gateways out of the city. So we've come into the south of the river to an area called Southwark, spelt Southwark, but pronounced Southwark. Back in the Middle Ages, this area was a hive of activity, because this is where the sailors came in. As you had the docks and the wharfs down here to the left, so the inns and the hostels and the brothels grew up in this area. Strange skyscrapers, the latest one looks a bit like a cigar, but is in fact it's the Swiss Ray building. It's going to be the second highest tower in London, 590 foot high and 40 floors.
Over the London.
And it's nicknamed the Erotic Gherkin.
London Tower Bridge. Tower Bridge. This is the one we showed a minute ago.
The river below us here is tidal in London, and we've got high tide at the moment. We have 2 tides a day which rise between 16 and 25 foot depending on the time of the year, with the spring tides being the highest. So it's just reaching full tide now before it starts to make its way out to the North Sea. It's the second longest river in England, 210 miles long. Starts off from a spring at Thames Head out in Gloucestershire, being a very bendy river, wends its way down through the university town of Oxford, past Hampton Court Palace, past Windsor Castle, through London out towards the North Sea. Coming up on our left now, you'll see the Tower of London. Look to the central white tower with the 4 black tops and the Union Jack flying. There you're looking at 900 years of history. Built by William the Conqueror. He was a Frenchman, he was a Norman, in fact, came from Normandy. He came over to England to fight King Harold at the Battle of Hastings in 1066. Won the battle, made his way up to London, got himself crowned in Westminster Abbey on Christmas Day 1066. And he set about fortifying the city. And he built the White Tower here on the edge of the old Roman wall to protect the city from invasion by river, but also to overawe the Londoners who were none too keen on this foreigner. But as you can see, it's no longer one tower today, it's made up of 19 towers. You've got the White Tower in the middle, surrounded by 2 outer walls. And you'll notice that the inner wall is higher than the outer wall. And that's because in the days when they were built, we were still fighting with bows and arrows and crossbows. So you get a double volley of arrows attacking any oncomers. And there used to be water in the moat around it, but that was drained in the 19th century when it got a bit polluted. And it was grassed over, and that area is now used as a recreation area by the beef eaters. And of course they live in the Tower of London. They have little apartments in the inside of the outer walls, and they live there with their families and their pets. In fact, you might have seen some, if you were very observant, you might have noticed some washing hanging out on a line from the top of the ramparts there. That's beef eater washing. So some 2 million people a year go through the Tower of London to see the crown jewels. Now, if you look over to your right, just at the end of these trees, you'll see part of the old Roman wall. The lower half with the red slate going through, it's the original Roman wall. 15 foot above was added in the 13th century just to fortify it even more. The large white building to the right is, with old Father Thames pointing out towards the sea, is the old Port of London Authority building. And to the right here, behind this war memorial, is Tower Hill, where many of the executions took place in the old days. Up until 1747, that was the last execution.
Alright, we're just walking along the River Thames to the London Tower to go in and see the crown jewels. We're entering London Tower. We have some cannon, a walkway I'm sure we'll get to, turrets and ramparts.
A real castle.
Boy, look at this. To the left we have, again, more walkways. The inner circle here. Look how old this thing is. Talk about old, yeah? You just see it wearing.
Okay, bye guys. Okay, this is the Tower of London. It was built originally as the first fortress. First fortress after William conquered England in 1066. We're going to see in a little while that part. See that part of the wall? That's one of the last remaining bits of the original wall that was built in 1066.
1066.
Yeah.
Wow, 10 William.
Okay, let's go this way. We're going to go to the crown jewels first.
We're on our way to see the crown jewels.
Cannon barrel. Holy crap.
No, whenever it's like someone I know.
Small cannon.
What's your name or something?
It's about 20 feet long, 15 feet. Have some period dress.
Many of those who have not seen the crown jewels yet, bear in mind some of what I tell you. Because our story is set on a warm May day in the year of 1671. I believe you already know the King of England in 1671. It was King Charles II. Be honest, have you all heard of King Charles II? Of course you have. The Merry Monarch was one of his titles. He was called the Merry Monarch because he lived, well, a very licentious lifestyle. He lived with many mistresses, sir. Some have counted him as over 30 mistresses. A dozen more than you, sir. So that's how prolific King Charles II was. And this is why he has been given the title, the Merry Monarch. But life was not always merry for this king. And I will give briefly a bit of the back history. I think you must know this before you understand the significance of the events in May 1671. It had not always been merry times for King Charles II, because when he was a young man, a late teenager in fact, at the age of 19, when his father was still alive as King Charles I, this country was torn in two by civil strife. A civil war. Parliament rose against the king. Parliament arrested the king, put him on trial, and found him guilty of crimes against the country and against Parliament itself. The king at the time, Charles I, said that this trial had no authority. It did him little service. He was found guilty of crimes and then beheaded on a January morning in 1649. It was a huge event that sent shockwaves throughout Europe. A monarch being beheaded by this people. It sent shockwaves through the royal family. The son, Charles, 19, remember, he fled to France. He fled to Europe for his own safety. And there he remained for 11 years. And for 11 years, this country had what was a republic led by Cromwell, who was in charge of Parliament. Now here is a warning to any of you that dwell in republics or lands that ever planned to be republics. They were dark, miserable days for the English. This Parliament was ruled by Puritans, strong religious people, and they didn't enjoy fun. During that time of the Republic, singing and dancing was outlawed. The theatres were closed down. All merriment was banished. Children, during this time, Christmas... Do you like Christmas? Do you like Christmas? Christmas was abolished! That's right, they got rid of Christmas. Now, I know that may appeal to some of you parents here, but think of the poor children with Christmas abolished. So for 11 years we had this republic, but Cromwell died, who had headed the republic, and with his death, so the steam of the republic ran out, and those in control in the country thought that we may require the monarch again. And it was fortuitous that that young son of the king had fled to France for his own safety. He was now a near middle-aged man at 30, and he was invited back to be King of England in 1660. And so he comes back and lands in England to great cheering from his loyal subjects. Nothing from you, sir. Nothing at all. He is obviously a Dutch spy within our midst. Everyone keep their eyes on this fellow here. We cannot trust him. You can cheer next time. Anyway, Charles lands in England and is brought back to London, and he finds that although he wishes to be crowned king, he cannot, because the crown jewels are no more. The crown jewels that have been at the Tower of London since medieval times had been pretty much destroyed. Cromwell and Parliament had melted them down and probably used them to pay for the Republicans. There are a few items that did survive. There was a spoon and such like, but the majority had gone. And so Charles II had to have the crown jewels re-minted. For those of you who have seen the crown jewels already, this will explain why the date on most of the crown collection is around the 1660s, because that is when they had to be remade. And for those of you who have not seen the crown jewels yet, you can notice how that's where they date from. Some of them predate that, but most of them come from the 1660s. Anyway, it takes him a year to make the crown jewels, so the crown jewels are made for him. And in 1661, he is crowned King of England to great cheering from the population. Yay! That's better, sir. Easily converted. That's what we like to say. He was to rule in total for 25 years. Generally happy times for Charles II, but always short of money. But he keeps the crown jewels here at the Tower of London for safekeeping. They're not kept where you view them today. They were kept along here in a tower that you can still visit, the Martin Tower. It's along here and on your right. In those days, the Tower of London was no longer being used as a royal residence, but there were prisoners here, there was the Mint here, there was a zoo here, there were all manner of things. It was a very, very busy place. There were soldiers here. I am Captain Martin Beckman. I look after the Royal Ordnance, which is based in this building here in the 1660s. That means I look after all the gunpowder, sometimes for firework displays, but other times for blowing the Dutch out of the water and fighting the French and such things as that. So they're all housed here, so a very busy place. But there were still a number of tourists who would like to bribe the keeper of the crown jewels, whose name was Talbot Edwards. I won't dull you with too many names, but you should know Talbot Edwards. It was his job to look after the crown jewels. And as I say, if you bribed him well enough, he would let you in to see the crown jewels. Well, a reverend had come to see him, a churchman. Who could be more trusted than the churchman? No one. Well, this churchman had arrived and befriended Talbot Edwards. Found out that Talbot Edwards had a daughter who was in her 20s. Are there any girls here in their 20s? No? Nearly. Well, if you are an unmarried, that is a wanton thing, ladies. Will you remain spinsters all your life, unwed? And this is exactly what Talbot Edwards felt about his daughter. It was time she was married. And this reverend said he had a pretty cousin who would make a fine match for his daughter. So excited was Talbot Edwards, he said, well, bring him here, and you can have a private viewing of the crown jewels. And so, on the 9th of May, 1671, this reverend turns up with this cousin to view the crown jewels. They are along here. They go to the Martin Tower at 7 o'clock in the morning, and Talbot Edwards is very, very excited. He leaves his daughter upstairs, he comes downstairs, and with a great key he unlocks the sideboards and cabinets, and there displays the crown, the jewels, the sceptre, the orb. All these things are displayed to their guests. But as Talbot Edwards' back is turned and he is showing them the contents of these sideboards and cabinets, so our reverend, from his cassock, takes out a wooden mallet and thumps Talbot Edwards upon the head. Oh, He groans. He falls onto the ground in a pool of blood. He starts to scream and shout, and so they kick him a few times. And then they get a gag, and they bound his mouth so he cannot scream anymore. They now wish to be as quiet as possible, so the daughter upstairs is not alerted, though one does go up there and bind her too and gag her to make sure she can make no appeal. And then they steal the crown jewels. You are thinking these are not the deeds of a churchman, of a reverend. Those thoughts are going through your mind, are they not? Well, worry not. This was not the church turning mischievous. This was, in fact, a disguise. This was no reverend. This was really one Colonel Thomas Blood.
We just came out of the crown jewels, and we were not allowed to photograph in any way, shape, or form. So now we're going. This is a military museum.
White
are we
House.
going in here?
Yeah. Just go up there. Oh, wait, hang on. Where's the entry? Oh, must be in the. Jesus.
Up these stairs. No?
Where's the kids going?
Where you were saying Whitehall or White Tower? Wait, is this it?
Yeah.
The whole building's a white tower, right?
Yeah, the whole building's on the White House.
Yeah. Because it's got the white edging on it.
That's where we came in.
The other side. We used to get in here. I don't know why.
Get, there's the guards in front of
Is the entrance not in front?
Yes, it is all the way around. There's the guards.
With modern armaments. I guess these are what you call beef eaters. Well, I waited to hear.
Well, there's a regimental museum. That's what he was talking about.
That's a regimental museum. Okay, this is the entrance. We had to walk all the way around. Now we have to go up these stairs. We're in the chapel. This is the chapel of the armory. St. John's Chapel.
Norman toilet.
Can't read it. This is the washroom. Or not even a washroom, it's the toilet. They have nice ventilation. We're in the armory now. I expect we're looking at a lot of equipment. The building itself is, as you can see, we have helmets and armor. Fully armored horse. and rider. Tools of the trade dating back to the 1400s. Some of the dates on a couple ceremonial sabers in the entryway were 1390s and 1413. So there's a lot of history in this place. The previous wall was for kings. This is armor for princes. This is armor for King Charles I. Armor in decline, whatever that means. They were using less and less. Oh, treasure of the Royal Tudor Armory. Some sabers and some old guns.
Here's a lance.
Holy cow. There's our armor, and here is a lance. It would have to take quite an arm to hold that. That is made of wood and a metal shaft in the center. Now what we have is a couple of exhibits of pistols. Check out this wall. What a collection. We also have the more modern exhibit. On the other side of the wall from the sabers, we have black powder muskets. Another armor exhibit. Pardon me. Lances, armor, all the way to 1625, Charles I, Charles II. And here is a musket from William the Conqueror, dated 1600. That thing is 6 feet long, and it's got a bore you could shove. It's bigger than a toonie, I think. And I'll tell you, anybody crazy enough to pull the trigger on that thing is going to get broken in half. We have some of the heavy artillery. I believe these would be the 18-inchers. Some more smaller arms, which would still be brutal to pull the trigger on. Smaller cannon. This one here. $1692. The new Namur mortar. Different artifacts, artwork, candlesticks, keys, curled bayonets.
Things that were left from a fire.
These were left from a fire, actually. The Grand Storehouse caught fire. These also must have been damaged during battle. Exploded barrels.
museum in the world.
It's the largest free museum in the
And
world.
also, these are the things I want you to. I'm not going to give you a guided tour because you can go all over the place and do whatever you want to go there. No, yes. The Elgin marbles from Greece. The Egyptian room upstairs. Take a look at the mummies. The crocodile mummies, the cat mummies, all the other kinds of mummies. Wander around, take a look at the sarcophaguses and the pharaonic sculptures. It's a beautiful museum. You have 1 hour. Come meet me back here, right here at 5 o'clock. Yeah. I checked to see the signs. I can't remember. Probably not. Mike, come on.
We are now in the British Museum. Check out this place. This is the ceiling. You don't even recognize this or expect this from the outside. This is wild. That's where we came in from.
Good direction. King's Library, Greek Stewart, Roman Wait till we see something.
Well, I just want to show off the building.
Good building.
We are now in the Egypt room. As you can see, there are some Egyptian things here. Sandstone colossal royal head. 18th dynasty, about 1500 BC, probably from the Temple of Karnak. I'm not going to try and explain everything in here, but it's enough just to see these displays as they are and try and appreciate everything that's actually in here. Granite boat of Queen Natumia. Sarcophagus of the black granite sarcophagus from 1380 BC from Thebes. And here is an ancient one we have right there. Oh, ancient one. Oh, check out this stone sarcophagus. Yeah. Yeah, trying to do that. We're moving upstairs to a second floor exhibit.
mosaic pavements, floor decorations in Egyptian homes and buildings.
Here you have a dog and a wild boar. Aren't you glad I just called you old instead of a dog or a wild boar?
Okay, where do we want to go?
Check out
This
the
way.
pottery.
Egypt, this way. North stairs.
More Egyptian. River and desert. Some of their utensils. The burial of Soter and his family. 2nd century AD. It's alright. I'm beyond trying to edit out everyone. These are 25th dynasty down to the 4th century BC. These are mummies of the Ptolemaic and Roman periods. I don't know if they're getting better at it or worse. Tomb of the Physician. Moving on, there's another room here with something interesting. Someone was saying here we have different artifacts, wooden carvings, pottery, some combs, and this is, I don't see a name on it. Oh, why don't you read it for me and narrate?
It's a naturally preserved body of a man in a reconstructed grave pit with a selection of typical grave goods.
And it's dated?
The late pre-Islamic, read it,
Well, it's a long time ago.
3400 BC.
3400 BC. There's some nice work. Where do those date to?
6th and 7th century AD. Number 12, that's number 12.
The sabers?
6th to 7th century AD, same thing.
Pottery. Look at these. Made from silver, bronze, gilded silver. Wow. Some stonework. Just to let you have a look at a little more of the museum per se. We're not going to look at everything so specifically. The building itself is a lovely structure.
Roman Britain.
This is Roman Britain, is the display that we're in. You can see the tapestries in stone on the walls. They're all in little tiles. Early medieval Europe. This place is huge. Europe, the 19th century. Pottery. All sorts of creations. Well, if you like books, this is where you want to be. If you like reading, that's where you want to be.